Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia. Let's talk books. Today I'm here to talk about books number 76 through 80 of the books that I'm reading in 2023. I've also moved the angle of my camera so you all can see Lady back here. She's such a good dog. She just sits, finds somewhere to take a nap and naps while I'm filming. And Lincoln has decided to be good recently and he just picks a spot lately under my desk and just sleeps over there. So that's what he's doing right now. But Lady's back there being a good girl. So let's get started though. Book number 76 of my 2023 reads is Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I have a dedicated review to this book on my channel, so if you're interested, I will link that below. Silver Nitrate is this awesome book. Okay, I gave it 5 stars because it really worked for me. And I want to talk more about Silvia Moreno-Garcia's books as a whole. So I've gone back and kind of I'm going to be rereading some of her books, but I also went back and finally read Signal to Noise, so I'll talk about that in an upcoming video. But I feel like this is a more mature version of her first published novel. In this one, what we have is Montserrat and Tristan, who have been best friends since childhood. Montserrat has a physical disability, and people underestimate her because of that, but she is a tough cookie, and she's learned how to surprise people both physically and with her wits. And so Tristan and her have a bit of a codependent relationship. Now, when we meet them as adults in Mexico City in the 90s, I believe, Montserrat loves old horror films from all over the world, but especially old Mexican horror films. And it turns out that one of Tristan's neighbors is an old horror film director, and he directed this little known film that never got finished. And part of the thing with this film is that it's cursed. Our director feels it's cursed, and he feels that the only way to break this curse is to complete the film. And he asks Montserrat and Tristan to help him finish this project. And in helping him do this, they enter a whole world of mysticism, magic, Nazi mysticism. It gets pretty horrific. The book, for most of the story, it starts off really slow. This is kind of a recurring theme in Silvia Moreno-Garcia's books. I think the beginning of her books tend to be quite slow paced, where you're just getting to know Monse, you're getting to know Tristan, their relationship, and I love that, in part because I find that what she does with relationships and with characters is really interesting. However, about the last third of the book is high-paced action. It feels more like a thriller, and like those classic horror elements where you have ghosts, magic, demons, other dimensions, blood, sacrifices. Like, it gets the horror elements are there. Now, in terms of actual more gory blood, like the nastier, stronger stuff, I feel like those are there, but it's only in a handful of scenes, maybe 3 or 4 scenes towards the end of the book, and they're easily skimmable. So if like it's too much, it's easy to kind of like skim through them and not focus too much on them. I love the story. I love Montserrat. And she's a little bit different than other Silvia Moreno-Garcia's heroines. She fits the Silvia Moreno-Garcia archetype, or what I think is Silvia Moreno-Garcia's heroine archetype. But she's also much more confident than other of Moreno-Garcia's heroines. I find like her other heroines tend to go through a process of gaining confidence, where Mose already has a lot of confidence when we meet her at the beginning here. What she is tapping into is maybe newer aspects of herself, but Mose has a really strong sense of self. Anyways, I'm going on and on because I think there's so much to unpack with this, but I'm gonna leave the rest of that discussion for a later video which I want to focus on Silvia Moreno-Garcia's heroine specifically for. So give me at least another month for that one. Book number 77 of the books I'm reading in 2023 was I Saw Death Coming, A History of Terror and Survival in the War Against Reconstruction by Kidada E. Williams. So this book is a difficult read. It's a work of nonfiction in which Williams goes through cases of violence against Black people by the Ku Klux, KKK, but at the time most people call them the Ku Klux, and night raiding. That's what they called the attacks on Black communities after Reconstruction. And she goes into a lot of detail, giving us the stories of what people experience. This is particularly important, and I think the main goal that Williams her main argument here is that we need to talk about the victims of this kind of violence like they're people, like they're more than statistics, they're more than just like there for you to learn a lesson. They were full people with lives, and they were affected in a lot of different ways, not just physically because of the violence, but economically, emotionally, mentally. Like there's a huge impact of what generations of experiencing this kind of violence had to survive and deal with, like that kind of generational trauma. It's one thing to talk about it in generalities, and it's quite different to read the individual stories of people. And she does, I think, a really great job of weaving those stories into a narrative that makes sense and gives you lots of information. I really enjoyed this book. I'm already assigning one of Williams's smaller articles in my classes because this kind of history can be a lot for students, but I think it's the point about these victims being violent, these victims of violence being people is a really important one, and one that the last time I taught Williams in my summer class, I think students really connected with, and I'm hoping that happens again this semester. Students just read that, so I need to go in and see students' comments, and yeah. So I recommend it, even though it's very heavy, but because it's nonfiction and it's weaved into a narrative, I think it's very readable even for people who don't normally read nonfiction. The next book on my list is A Spoonful of Thyme by Flora. This book I heard about from Shannon over at That So Poe. My library had it, so I immediately was like, okay, let's give this a try, because it's a middle grade book. And I really enjoyed it because it has time travel themes. So in the story, our main character is cooking with her grandmother. Her grandmother has Alzheimer's, something like that. She's losing her memory, and her mom, our main character's mom, is in charge of taking care of her. So they're all living in the same house, and it is causing tension, right? But it also is helping our main character connect with her grandmother and with the family's past, because her mom has not been very good about helping her connect with her family's history. Her mom kind of wants to keep her away from that, but because mom's busy at work so much, then our main character has been spending time with her grandma, and what she's found out is every time they cook certain recipes, they can travel back in time to those moments, and you can't affect the moment, but you can be there, see everything, smell everything, and by doing this, she gets a better sense of her grandmother's history, her mother's history, and the family, her roots, just everything. And it's really, really cute, even though it's a very heavy topic. At first I wasn't sure how I was going to handle the aspects of like the Alzheimer's and the losing memory, because it's something that hits a bit close to home, but I thought that was handled really, really well. The things that were a little bit I had a harder time with was some of the time travel logic. But with any time travel stories, whenever you're kind of building that world and rules, it can get really complex, and I think this got a little too complex and a little too intricate, especially towards the end. But it definitely is set up like as if there's going to be a part 2, although I don't know that that's true. There's just the potential for that in this story. So I thought this was a cute middle grade, though a little bit too complex with some of the time travel aspects. All right. Next book was The Faithhealer of Olive Avenue by Manuel Muños. So this is a collection of short stories, and I've read Muñoz's other more recent collection of short stories. But someone on TikTok commented about how this book was really amazing too. So I went back, and I think it's true. This book is fantastic. I think I liked it even better than I liked Consequences. Was the collection I read before, because this one, I think that there was just even more of the stories that had a bigger impact on me. A lot of these short stories, well, all of these short stories involved people who are immigrants, either working in the fields, their family dynamics. Sometimes the focus is on the immigration aspect of it, but oftentimes it's not. It's more about the families, the community, and we're getting these glimpses of these stories, and together I think they tell about people. It's just a story about people and the difficulties they encounter. So it's not necessarily like immigrant stories, although those themes are there, and I think it hits on that point about how people are more than statistics. They're more than headlines in, on the news app or on social media. The people are people with all the complexity and all the negativity and joys that come with that humanity. And he shows us this. He also makes sure, like, some of the stories are very focused on queer themes, which I really, really loved. Like, the way Muñoz handles all of those topics is just fantastic. He shows us the gender dynamics, the messed up families, the love and joy, but also all the dirty, bad things that people hide behind closed doors. So lots, content warnings, because there's homophobia, there's transphobia, there's violence, sexism, sexual assault in some of these stories. But I think it's handled really, really well by Muñoz. So if you haven't read anything by him, I highly recommend some of these short story collections. And I'm not a short story person. I tend to actually not like a lot of short story collections, but this is one that I felt was good, even though there were stories here and there that I was like, those weren't quite as good. But overall, it's a fantastic collection. And since Latine Heritage Month is coming up, this might be a great time to pick up an author you haven't heard of that tackles a variety of themes within the Latinx community. So this would be a fantastic one. Next one I read was, it says Rabbit Test by Samantha Mills. So Shannon actually read this story and sent me a message saying, I think you'd be really interested in this because it deals with the topic of reproductive rights. And sure enough, I think I even liked this story even more than Shannon did. This is a kind of futuristic sci-fi story. You have a world in which women's reproductive rights are tightly controlled, especially by parents. So in this story, you're following a teenager who has some sort of device attached to her, like most people do in this world, and the device can tell the minute somebody is pregnant, and the parents of this girl have access to all of that information. But there are kind of ways around things potentially in this world. And so we see the story in which this girl is pregnant and she doesn't want to be pregnant and she doesn't want her parents to know. Very short, very fast, and I thought that was the only issue I had with this story. That was like, it's too fast. There's a very complex world here, and I wanted more of it. I wanted a more exploration of it, especially towards the end when there's a bit of a time jump, and I was like, no, wait, I would like to explore that more. But if you're interested in short stories and the topic of reproductive rights and sci-fi, if these elements interest you, I'm going to link the short story below. You can read it online for free. It's short, but I think it's impactful, and I really, really liked it. Those are books number 76 through 80, because that last one was a short story. I kind of want to keep talking, but this is a good time to stop. And I'm a little behind on filming these wrap-ups, but I'm going to be catching up because I just hit book number 100 of the books that I'm reading in 2023. So that kind of took me by surprise. I thought I was being a much slower reader this year than in previous years, but it turns out I'm kind of right on track, same as previous years. So let me know how your reading is going. Do any of these books interest you? Is there something specific you'd like to see from me in the coming months? Latine Heritage Month is coming up, like I mentioned before, and I'm kind of thinking ahead about what I might like to do. Though I'm also this is also last minute planning, because really I'm like the last few months have been moving a bit fast. And Latine Heritage Month has creeped up on me, and I don't have a set plan yet, but I'm working on it. So we'll see. If you're interested, follow for more and keep an eye out for these videos. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.